Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another in-depth tournament report for Kings of War. Now, anyone who's watching this live, let me know that you can see all the pictures clearly and everything. So, this tournament was Cry Havoc, which took place yesterday at Element Games, courtesy of the Northern Kings. It's a 2,000-point tournament, the usual. There were some slightly different rules compared to usual in the scoring sense, so I'll go through those. But first of all, obviously you can see in this beautiful logo that I've created here for the video, this thumbnail, the trolls are right there, so it's obviously Orange Goblin Town yet again. And you may remember from the previous tournament report, the last two actually, I think there's been potential in this Goblin list I've been running. The last tournament in particular where I did very well until it came unstuck due to a mixture of bad luck and lack of preparation against certain opposition. So there have been a couple of tweaks to my list this time. So I'll go through my list after I've told you the details of the tournament. So usually you'll have a system where you can get between 0 and 20 points, and that is also the case here, but it's worked out slightly differently. The scenario is weighed more heavily than usual. It's 10 points for a scenario win, 5 for a draw, 0 for a loss. And then the rest of the points are collected as follows. You get up to 5 based on how much of the opposition's army you kill, not the difference, just how much you kill, and then an additional 5 based on scenario factors. For example, if there are objectives on the table and you control 5, then you can get up to 5 bonus points that way at the end. So even if you're losing the scenario, you can still get points for the scenario. So it usually gives you something to play for heading right to the end. Whether you're way out in the lead or way behind, you can still get bonus points that go towards your tournament score, which I felt was a nice idea on paper, and I think it turned out to be quite nice in practice as well. There was also a re-roll of 1 dice per game, which you can only use on your own rolls, so you can't use it for turn 7 or to choose sides, or you also weren't allowed to use it for things like roll-offs. If something was exactly 50-50 and you need to roll off to decide which rule applies and so on, you can't use it for things of that nature. So obviously most people would have been using that for things like nerve tests. And I don't think I forgot to use it throughout the tournament, so that's nice. Looks like we've got a few viewers in here already. Let me know if you're watching this so you can see the pictures all right. So we'll have a look at my army here on the table and I'll run you through my list. So this is the setup for game 1, by the way, obviously. So, Goblins. We've got Rabble. We have a Horde of Rabble and a Regiment of Rabble. We have Spitters, a horde of them with Fire Oil, which is a new addition from last time. Because it's only really cheap. If you've got 5 points left over, you're fairly likely to come up against something that has regen at a tournament. So it's a decent investment there. 3 Hordes of Trolls. A slight change on how I'm running the trolls this time. 1 item has changed. 1 with Dwarven Ale, 1 with Chalice of Wrath, which are the same. Last time I took a troll horde with the Potion of the Caterpillar. This time I've gone for the Brew of Courage. So all 3 items are intended to make them more survivable, less likely to become wavered, or more likely to shrug off the effect of being wavered. Then we have a regiment of Fleabag Rider Sniffs, which I'm growing to love very much, more so than the regular Fleabag Riders, especially in this list where there's a lot of shooting. Then we have 3 War Trombones, 3 big rock throwers. So the 6 War Machines of Doom. It does mean I have slightly less units to score points with, but they do kick butt. Then I had a Bigot in the last tournament. I took him out, and I've got 2 Flaggits now instead of 1. This is the old Flaggit combo I used to run quite a lot, where I'd have 2, 1 with the Diadem of Dragonkind, 1 with the Holy Hand Grenade, both on Fleabags, of course. So it's just 2 really annoying little shooting attacks that serve kind of 2 different purposes, because the Holy Hand Grenade is very good if there's something with high defense that gets close to your lines, maybe too close for the Rock Lobbers, and for finishing those kind of units off late on in the game, or just chipping away at them before they get there. And the Diadem of Dragonkind is just kind of your all-purpose breath attack, while also being inspiring characters as well, so they can just dance around, harass people while inspiring. A Wizard with the Scarlet Moor's Fenulian Amulet, so Lightning Bolt 5. He's only 70 points, and he just sits there in my lines, shooting lightning bolts out at people. And that adds to the flyer defense as well, along with the war trombones. Lots of breath attacks, that kind of thing, to protect against flyers landing behind my lines, near my war machines, and so on. And we've got a Troll Bruiser with the Blade of Slashing, which is a handy one for him, because usually with the Blade of Slashing, it means that you're going to hit with all 5 of your attacks. That's how I found it anyway. And Grogger's Great Lobber, so adding a 4th Rock Lobber, and this one's slightly better. Not noticeably, really, but it's a way to get a 4th Rock Lobber in, so I think it's worth having, even though it's slightly more points. I think even if it was a bit more expensive, I'd probably still take it just to get a 4th one, for this list in particular, where it relies on war machines. So, let's have a look. So the first scenario, I believe it was Pillage. I don't think I actually noted down what scenario they were, but I think I can work it out pretty easily. So we had a set number of objectives on the table. Because there were bonus tournament points available for being on the objectives at the end, then every table had the same amount, so every table had 6. So I think I can point out where they are. I think you can see the cursor moving around. So there's one in the left-hand side here on my side of the table, right down there at the bottom, and I've got my regiment of Rabble next to that. They're probably not going to move. They're just going to stay there and try and hold that. There are 3 in the middle there in a big line. There's one down in this corner as well, and you can't see it at the moment, but there's another one up in this corner of the table here. My opponent placed the objectives along the edges, and I was putting mine in the middle. Because you may think, well, I've got lots of units that want to stay back, why don't I put some of the objectives back there? But really, most of my units that are staying back can't score points on objectives anyway. None of the 4 Rock Lobbers, or the Whiz, for example, is only really the Spitter Horde that could do that job. So I was quite happy for the objectives to be in the centre where my trolls would like to end up at the end of the game. And it encourages the enemy to move into that area, which is where I can shoot them more easily. Because I should also point out that this tournament, there was a lot of terrain. You can see on this table there's a lot. And a lot of view-obstructing terrain. Most tables had 2 height 4 impassable pieces of terrain, 2 height 4 woods, and 2 hills, and then multiple pieces of difficult terrain as well, which is going to give cover, which obviously won't affect my indirect fire war machines. But you can see here, the lanes of fire are quite narrow unless you've got things that are height 3 behind the hills, so you can still see them. And obviously they wouldn't get cover if Rock Lobbers are firing at them. So Rock Lobbers aren't as affected by the hills as long as there's tall things in the opposing army. But, I mean, lane of fire through there, and there are certain blind spots, especially for height 1 and 2 units, to hide. The forests and the difficult terrain as well mean that anyone in there is going to potentially get cover, which is handy against gun lines. Well, as far as gun lines go, like I said, the Rock Lobbers won't be affected by cover, and also the Holy Hand Grenade always hits on a 4 regardless of cover. So, less affected perhaps than other shooting lists by cover. Okay. So I'm against Brotherhood in game 1. I've only played against them twice before. Once in a tournament, which was the first time I'd ever played them, and I drastically underestimated all their knights in the last tournament I did, and I lost that game. And then I had one practice game, which is currently up on the channel, which is a full game. I'm not going to tell you how that went in case you haven't watched it yet. If you want to see a full-length game in action, in full glorious HD, you can go and watch that. So 2 games, and I think I've got a bit of a grip of knowledge on their units now. So I felt well equipped going into this game against the Brotherhood. So let's go through the deployment here. On my right flank, I've got the Whiz hugging the corner. I've got the Fleabag Sniffs, the Flaggit with the Diadem of Dragonkind. And I've got a Troll unit. This is the Troll Horde with the Chalice of Wrath. Then I've got the Troll Bruiser there, a War Trombone, the other Flaggit with the Holy Hand Grenade, my Spitter Horde just in the forests, they can shoot through it without penalty, and anyone charging into them is going to be hindered. And then you can see the Rabble Horde there. Ignore the spears, they are just a rebel. And I had about 19 drops, which was more drops than my opponent, I think. It wasn't that one-sided, though, in the drop numbers, so I wasn't able to completely pick and choose the perfect location for all my units. Because if you think about it, I've got 4 Rock Lobbers, and by the time my opponents deployed their heavy units, I probably already had to have put at least a couple of them down. There's only certain places they can go, really. I'm generally concerned with where the War Trombones go because of flyers, mainly. If I put them down too early, all the flyers will just hug the opposite flank to avoid them. And then it's difficult for them to actually make up the ground to get there. So in the center, I've got all my war machines. This one pointing that way a bit because I want a bit more of a view down this side here. And all of them are looking through those 2 lanes of fire I was talking about, and also up onto the hill, which the enemy may encroach onto at some point. Unit of trolls there. That's the one with the Brew of Courage and the War Trombones. There's the other troll unit there with the Dwarven Ale. And the Rabble Regiment just sitting on this objective here. That's usually one of the first units I put down. I'll put down the Rabble and then maybe the Fleabag Sniffs on the opposite flank, just to get a feel of what the opponent's doing. And then I'll put down some individuals, a couple, maybe one War Trombone, a couple of big rock throwers just aiming at the prime areas of the battlefield. Save a couple for the end, though, in case there are any tasty flyers or something like that that I want to be targeted directly at so they don't have a chance to hide. I'll save the trolls towards the end usually, unless I'm going to put one smack bang in the middle. So here's the opponent's setup. We have here a unit of knights. These are the slightly more elite knights, I think, of the Brotherhood. Archers, and these are the, I think these are some kind of foot knights perhaps, but they're actually quite good. This is probably one unit I was underestimating just looking at them because they just look like your average sort of swordsman, but they're actually pretty tasty. Then over here, there are some more knights. There's one unit of knights that isn't quite as good as the others. Let me see. I think it's the one that's a different colour, so probably this one here, the blue one. The 2 silver ones, I believe, are the higher quality knights. Then there's some small, fast cavalry there. And there he's got some of the, I can't remember what they're called now, but they are flying monstrous cavalry, backed up by a flying leader of some description as well. I should really learn all the names of all these units, shouldn't I? Then he's got some artillery at the back there. Does he have more than one piece of artillery? I can't remember. I think maybe he's only got that one. And there is a caster down there and another one at the back there. So not that many drops. Let's see how many it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 by the looks of it. So a lot less than me. So, yep, that's an advantage. Turn 1. And my opponent gets the choice and decides to go first, which is probably a good move because he was about to get shelled by artillery if he didn't. Well, he's still going to get shelled by artillery, but maybe slightly less. Oh, there's another unit up there as well, which I don't think I mentioned because it was lurking. That's just a really small, feeble infantry unit that are sitting next to that objective. So I assume they're going to stay over there for most of the game. So he's moving some units up into cover here. Because if you're on this height 0 difficult terrain, then you will get cover from it. So some of my shooting will be affected by that, but not all. In the center, look at this action shot. Oh, there you go. It's like live video almost. So they've moved forwards. The archers, the knights are staying behind those woods, so they're not a viable target for my war machines. I'm going to assume that's the thinking behind that, because if they dip their toe into the woods, I'll then be able to see them, and my artillery isn't affected by cover. So they're just hiding for now. So there's the full advance there. And yep, they've gone back onto that objective as predicted. So when you see a tiny unit like that, like with my Rabble Regiment, you just assume if there's an objective to be sat on for the whole game, they might as well go for it because they're probably not going to affect the game in any significant way, unless you've got a strategy that really relies on having that single chaff unit that would immediately get killed, maybe to draw some fire. So the archers put 5 damage onto these trolls right off the bat. Now, this unit of trolls isn't inspired by anything. I think all my inspiring is down the other side of the table. So a lucky roll could have got rid of them there. And then more shooting coming from here. Hits the wizard, puts 1 damage on him, and hits the Fleabag Sniffs as well, 1 damage. And look at this, he takes out the wizard in one go because he wasn't inspired either. No inspiring character within range at all. I think this is one here, but not in range of the Wiz. So that's not a very good start. Wizard dead immediately. My turn 1. So the advance is on. Trolls, Rabble moving forward. moving these guys up, but not going over the hill because I don't want to get shot at mercilessly. They're staying back a bit. I think they've advanced a little bit. Not too much, though, because I want to keep them near that objective. They're just staying there in case they're going to be required. Because there's no point sitting really far back on the objective when there's no one immediately threatening to shoot you, because you're pretty much out the game. So if you stay within range of it, so you can just hop back onto it at any time, but still potentially affect the game if required. And you can see that this Flaggit has gone out on his own up there. Not too concerned about inspiring at the moment, particularly these big hordes that have got really high nerve, because the shooting that he has got probably isn't going to chew through them in one go. And the trolls have got the Bruiser to inspire them, of course, down here. So, my shooting wavers his leader there. Looks like it's done 9 damage. I'm assuming that symbol is the 6. And that's his wavered symbol. So, I believe that's a combination of probably these guys and the Flaggit up there. I'm not sure if the War Machines helped with that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because I was doing quite well with my War Machines in this game. So his advance in turn 2, he's not coming up onto the hill. He doesn't want them to be charged by trolls. That would be a bad idea. So he's just keeping them there. And his knights have come out of cover now, which is going to make them easier to shoot. The other ones are still hanging back, though. He's obviously holding them in reserve. In a scenario like this, where nearly all the points are going to be grabbed in the last turn, you don't necessarily want to kamikaze everything in. If you hold something back just to pounce at the end, that can be wise. But if it's an expensive unit that you're keeping out of the fight, there is something to be said for having it in there the whole time as well. It's an interesting school of thought either way. So, flyers. These guys have hopped over, and he's wavered, so he's kind of holding things up a bit. But they've jumped over the piece of impassable terrain there. So they're going to get attacked, most likely. And what does his artillery do? Oh, look at that. He puts 4 wounds onto Grogger's Great Lobber. And then his archers put 4 damage onto that War Trombone. And then something here shoots, presumably them and the Wizard. And they put damage onto the Flaggit. And I think these guys have taken more damage as well. And Grogger's Great Lobber is dead. So, wow, 1 Rock Lobber down, but I've still got the advantage in artillery 3-1, so I'm not overly concerned. Turn 2 for me. So I'm moving the trolls up into position, keeping them out of the charge arc of this unit here. They can't see them over the hill, because the hill extends all the way to the base, and I don't think the archers are going to be crazy enough to charge trolls. So I'm hoping next turn I'll be able to get a double charge in there, and then I'd just eat whatever counter was coming from them. Because that unit of knights is behind the woods, so I'm not worried about it at this stage. Then, well, what do the Spitters do? Combined with the Holy Hand Grenade and the War Machines, something's been deleted. What could that be? I believe that is a unit of knights, the ones that came down out of cover. I think it's the inferior unit of knights. So it's not the biggest loss. But this guy gets wavered again by shooting. I believe he got some wounds back from healing. But I think at least a couple of the characters have healing abilities, so he was able to get wounds back. But then he took more damage and became wavered again. So he's just holding things up big time, that guy. He could have really done with having a flying character like that to mess up my lines a bit. But he's wavered. The Fleabag Sniffs decide to charge into this flying unit, mainly to ground them. I don't care if these get killed on the countercharge. I just want to get them on the ground so I can then charge them with something else next turn. So the Sniffs willingly laying down their lives. Willingly, but by that I mean they didn't fail their yellow-bellied test. And you can see here I've got these 2 troll units ready to go in over there next. I've got my Flaggit in the woods to give him some cover from shooting while he unleashes the Diadem of Dragonkind at people. This War Trombone's just chilling out back here. Turn 3. So he's moved back with these 2 units a bit. It's probably not going to save him, because I don't think he was able to get far enough away from the trolls to avoid a charge. But he is further away from objectives that I would potentially be on. So that may be a strategy there. And also this unit can now potentially flank charge anything here if it gets stuck in combat there. So the monstrous flying cavalry have gone back in there, the large flying cavalry, and look at that tape measure action. And he's been wounded again, I think, by shooting, probably from here. And he's wavered now, so he's not going to be able to do any shooting next turn. These archers put more damage onto the trolls. And he only manages to waver the Sniffs with this unit. So with them being nimble, they'll easily be able to get out the way to make space for the double charge I was planning there. If anyone wants to ask any questions or leave any comments during this, feel free, and I will refer to them. I've got them up on the screen in the corner. So my turn 3, the double charge into the archers succeeds, kills it in one go. I've kept these trolls facing that way because the knights are still behind there, a bit of a threat, and these trolls facing that way so they're not charged in the flank by this unit of foot knights. We've got a holy hand grenade action, put some damage onto them, just getting a start on that. And of course, the large cavalry that flies is dead. The 2 troll units here, Troll Bruiser and the Troll Horde, eat that unit for breakfast. You can see here how the nimble Sniffs reversed out of the way and then pivoted to allow the space for these 2 units to get through. Then we've got some Rock Lobber action. And look at that, they kill his leader. So he was wavered twice and now he's dead. So he wasn't able to affect the game at all. And they also wavered these knights as well, the Rock Lobbers, with a successful hit. I didn't need to get multiple hits on that guy to kill him because he was already so wounded. But wavered another unit, that's 1 less unit. They're going to be charging my trolls probably now. His turn 4. So this light, small cavalry unit charge into the Bruiser, which is, it's not just going to affect the Bruiser, it's also going to prevent this unit of trolls from charging off over there. And these foot knights have gone into the trolls here that are already wounded, so they've got a chance to kill them. And here, some shooting action going on, no doubt. Yep, the Flaggit is dead, taken out by presumably a lightning bolt, something of that nature. So he's dead. Troll Bruiser doesn't take too much damage from them, as you'd expect, but they are blocking charges to that unit of knights up there. And my trolls are dead. They were already damaged. So this horde was enough to finish them off. And I don't think this unit can actually see them. So I could have pivoted them a little bit more to give them more options. But perhaps I was overly confident that my trolls could survive this charge here. I underestimated this unit's fighting ability. So my turn 4. I move my shooty attacks. I've got War Trombone and the Holy Hand Grenade to look at this unit here to try and put more damage on them. And I've got them up to 12, so that's a good start, and the trolls have turned to face them a bit as well. These 2 have managed to kill off that light cav unit, and they're just going to await the impending charge from that unit of knights there if they survive this turn. And you can see here how I've got my Rabble Horde on that objective there. The Spitters are still sitting in the woods shooting out, and they put some damage onto those knights. You'll notice that the knights' damage and the wounds on all the units around here keeps going up and down. That'll be due to the healing powers of these wizards. Turn 5. So he charges those knights into the Bruiser. He may well kill him because it's not hindered. And if you can hinder Brotherhood, it affects them really badly because they rely a lot on Thunderous Charge. So many of the units have Thunderous Charge too, so you can reduce it by sitting around difficult terrain or obstacles. And also getting the first hit in against them can be important as well. So he decides not to charge this unit in by the looks of it, but he's positioned those units there so that they are staring down the trolls threateningly. And then his casters waver my Fleabag Sniffs by putting more damage on them, so they're nearly dead. And I kind of need them alive because there's an objective down in this corner that I want to keep them near. Troll Bruiser is dead as well from that knightly charge, but the trolls are going to have vengeance on them in a minute. Turn 5 for me. So, yeah, the trolls kill off those knights, and the Rabble Horde only put 2 wounds on this caster. It was a hindered charge because of the wall, though. I was hoping to kill that one and overrun into the second, but alas, it was not to be. Here, the trolls charge in this unit, and look at that. I think they only do 2 damage by the looks of it. So that is a shockingly bad result from the trolls, which means that the trolls are likely to get munched to death right now, because this knight unit, I believe, have a rear charge coming up. So, wow, that's a really, really poor roll there. I mean, it is a hindered charge, but still you'd expect more than 2. Here's a bit of a wide shot of the battlefield, so you can see how the scenario is looking. At the moment, I've got this objective here with the Rabble Horde. There's another objective down here that's very close to the Fleabag Sniffs. There's an objective up in the corner out of sight with his tiny unit on it. There's an objective down here out of sight with my Rabble Regiment on it. There's one here which nobody is on. There's one there that nobody is on. So I'm in the lead on kills and the scenario at the moment, it appears. Turn 6. Oh yeah, we forgot to point out that they were wavered, I believe. So I took a picture of that once we put the waver dice on them. So the trolls are only going to be eating 1 charge and not a charge in the front from them as well, due to that wavering. The artillery, what does it do? Oh, look at that. It finishes off the Sniffs, who are sat right in front of an objective. So that's 1 less scoring unit for me. And there's the trolls charged in the rear by the knights. And, of course, they kill them. So they're just turning to face this way. There's an objective somewhere down here that they want to go and claim that if there's a turn 7. My turn 6. So I move shooter units up here and try to take out this unit of knights, but can't put enough damage on them. You can see the trombone was involved. The trolls kill 1 individual caster down here, and the Rabble Horde kill the other. The Rabble Horde staying within range of that objective that they're on. This unit, just make sure they're within 3 of that before the end of the game, potentially. And this Rabble Horde, you can see, are easily within 3 there. He's within 3 of that one because he's sitting right on it in the corner. So I'm in the lead 2-1. And that is how it ends. Because this knight unit, they weren't able to pivot to get to within 3 inches of this objective here after killing the trolls in the rear. It was about 1 inch or half an inch out. So that could have turned it into a draw, which would have been probably a bad result for me, based on how it was going, because I was ahead on kills all the way through. And it kind of turned around a little bit at the end when the trolls terribly failed their rolls when attacking this unit here. So that could have made it into a draw. And if we'd had a turn 7, then in his turn he would have presumably parked this unit on that objective. This unit, I don't think they could have got to that one, because if they'd shuffled it, they wouldn't have been able to get within 3. I think we worked that out. So that would have meant I had to kill this unit of knights, which were already heavily damaged, with 3 rock lobbers, a war trombone, which probably would have been charged by them. So it would have been close, but then I also potentially would have been able to get onto another objective somewhere, would I? Let's see. I don't know. No, turn 7 possibly could have been heading for Drawsville, but there was no turn 7. So it's a win for me. And the kill points, I've got that written down here. Let's see. I killed 1,250. My opponent killed 1,085. So I killed more. And that resulted, I believe, the final scores, because my opponent gets 1 bonus point, even though he lost, so he gets a bonus point for that, which I think gives him a total of about 3 for the game. And I would have had 10 for the win, 2 bonus for sitting on 2 objectives, and about 3 for the kills. So 15 for game 1, which is quite solid. You don't want to win game 1 too heavily, because then you'll be up against the real big hitters in round 2. So, of course, it was deeply strategic, only winning with 15 points. That's what I'm sticking with anyway. Oh, you can actually see the clock there as well. It looks like I've got 6 minutes 19 left. My opponent has 14 minutes left. So, of course, he had a lot less units than I did. So, a win against the Brotherhood. Pretty solid. And I think I played it quite well. I think this flank was always in my control as soon as I was able to kill off some things with the rock lobbers and my other shooty attacks. Killed off one of the units of knights there, and constantly wavering his flying general as well was very, very handy. I don't think I shot at his artillery with my artillery at all, even though I had line of sight there, because there was always a juicier target that I wanted to aim for. And I wasn't confident that his one war machine was going to keep hitting mine repeatedly, so I wasn't too worried about just one of them. If you come up against multiple artillery on both sides, it can sometimes turn into a kind of a war just between them if they can see each other, because you want to press that advantage of having more artillery than your opponent, which can sometimes take them out the game if they don't hit, if they're just constantly shooting at each other. Okay, we are on to game 2, and this one is Invade. And what do you know? I'm against the Brotherhood again. Only played them twice before, ever, and now playing them again. 2 games in a row. I believe there were at least 4 armies that contained at least some Brotherhood at this tournament. So, Invade, of course, you want to get as much unit strength into the opponent's half as possible. And my unit strength is around about 19, because I have quite a few hordes. And you can see that my opponent has totally split his deployment into 2 flanks. Because this is a bit of a kill zone here, right in the middle. There's no view obstructing terrain in this area whatsoever. So with rock lobbers all over the place, putting anything there would have been an invitation for me to just corpse them up real bad. So he's got lots of stuff in that corner and there. You can see he's got some artillery though. He's got 3 pieces of artillery to my 4, so this is going to be interesting. So here's my deployment. This is on the... I think this is this the left flank I'm starting with here? No. This is the right flank / middle. There's nothing all the way on the right. So, Trolls, Rabble, Flaggit, a single war trombone, which was put down before he placed his flyers, and I think he put his flyers all on the opposite flank. Then we've got the Spitters there, the Rabble there, but he didn't really put too many units opposite them. So they're going to have probably a free march into his half, and they're hordes, so they're worth quite a lot. The Rock Lobbers here, this one facing over that way. And then, over on this flank, because his flyers are over here, I've got War Trombone hiding behind this building, another one there, I've got the Whiz, I've got the Holy Hand Grenade as well, and the Sniffs, they're all pretty good anti-flyer units, and 2 units Trolls and the Bruiser. These woods are here as well, so if he wants to fly anyone into combat around here, he's going to be hindered. And as I was saying, Brotherhood do not want to be hindered. So, here is his right flank, my left, as I look on. So, he has 2 of these flying units. There's his flying boss. Then he's got a couple of units of just peasant-style infantry. These are, I think those are fast cavalry. Those are actual knights, I think. Because there are no official models for Brotherhood, everyone uses different things, so it's difficult to keep track of exactly which unit is which sometimes. They're proper knights as well, and some more peasant infantry and some foot knights. Then he's got a piece of artillery there, and you saw the other one, did you? Well, it's over here there somewhere in the middle. Yeah, there's the 2 of them. So, turn 1, and I get turn 1 first. So, I move up into the forest, because I'm going to be shooting out, and if he wants to charge me, he's going to be hindered a lot. And I'm trying to position things in such a way that he's not going to be able to land in amongst my units as well, because his hero is height 3, so he could fly over the top of trolls and attack other trolls, for instance. So, got to be careful about leaving those gaps. Over on this flank, I've moved up as well. The trolls are not on the hill, so they're not going to be a viable target for his artillery yet. And everything else moving up, they're not moving. So, Rock Lobbers, what do? Put 4 damage onto these knights. Put 6 damage onto these cavalry here. I think they may be knights as well, actually. And they delete one of his artillery pieces immediately. So, 3 of them hit, damage dealt, and an artillery piece down. So I'm now up 4-2 on artillery. So that could be a big deal. Turn 1 for him. So the advance is on. He's put his flyers around, threatening me menacingly. These are height 3 as well, I think. So they can also see over trolls, which means there are a lot of juicy target possibilities. And these ones being on top of the hill as well mean that they're actually height 5 at the moment. So they can even see over woods from there. which means I have to be very careful and stay out of their range where possible. There's a bit of a log jam back here with the infantry, but he wants to keep things as much out of shooting as possible. Then he's moved these 3 units of infantry up with some knights behind them. Standard bearer there as well. Oh, what does his artillery do? Oh, well, it hits the Fleabag Sniffs and does 3 damage to them. Not enough to waver there. My turn 2. Okay, the Goblin Rabble charge into this unit of infantry. You may notice that another one of the infantry units has gone. That is because, oh, you can actually see that I wavered that unit as well. Look at that. Good job, Rabble. The Rock Lobbers, they took out that unit of infantry. That was the only viable target at this time because a lot of the units on the other side that are more juicy are currently hiding. So took out that unit, probably assisted by the Spitters and the Diadem of Dragonkind as well, most likely. At least one Rock Lobber would have hit, though, since I took the picture. And over here, you can see how I've congested it to prevent things from landing in amongst my units. This troll unit looked like they've got their flank open, but nothing that could fit there can actually see them over this height 4 building here, which extends all the way to the base. But there are some charges open to him. I'm keeping the trombones and the individuals out of charge range of everything, though. And with my various shooting attacks, I put 4 damage on them, 1 on them, not too much. So in his turn 2, he double charges the Fleabag Sniffs with both of these flying units, which I'm actually really happy about, because the Sniffs, they're just not that valuable, and he's putting himself in charge range of my trolls now. And this guy, his leader, I think they just don't want to be bombarded too much, so they want to get in there while they can and fight something, and those were the charges that I presented him with. He charges into this unit of trolls here. He had the option to charge the Bruiser with one of these units, I think, but he chose to double charge here instead to guarantee the kill. And you can see the knights. These are just the fast cav, actually. They're not knights. They're just chilling there, waiting to provide backup when it's inevitably required. And the 2 peasantly infantry units there chilling. I think these damage counters haven't been moved forward onto their units yet. Okay, so I made a bit of a mistake. So it wasn't a mistake here, the Rabble going in there, wavering them and getting charged in the flank by foot knights. I knew that was going to happen. I didn't really care. But I made a mistake in miscalculating the width of this gap here, which meant that these knights were able to charge through and hit my trolls because I left them within range. So that was a bit of a blunder. Of course, the foot knights make short work of the Rabble in the flank, as you'd expect. And this hero goes after the Wiz, puts 2 damage on him, so that's going to prevent him casting his lightning bolt, but doesn't kill him. And of course, the Fleabag Sniffs are dead from that double charge. Even though it was hindered, it was still going to be enough. The trolls take 2 damage from him. Not overly concerned by that. These trolls have become wavered after that charge that I allowed with my miscalculation, but they are the ones with Dwarven Ale, so 2/3 chance that they'll be able to shrug off that waver and countercharge. Turn 3. So I've got trolls going into these knights here, so obviously Dwarven Ale worked, and I was able to charge them with that Headstrong. The improvement to Headstrong makes Dwarven Ale a must-have for trolls, I think, just because they're so likely to become wavered because of the big gap between waver and rout. So anything that can mitigate wavering, very, very handy, especially with the changes to it. So a bit of damage, and these units have moved up so they could get within range to shoot at possibly the unit on the hill, or maybe something else up there. Let's see. Okay, yes. I think the unit that was wavered here before, the unit of infantry, was scorched, and they had the Diadem of Dragonkind fired at them. And I think the War Trombone took out or wounded him, perhaps, because it couldn't see them. So that unit is dead. They're already wounded, though. And then, of course, I've got a double charge here into this guy, a charge there. Now, you may think, well, why did I ignore the second unit of them? That's because I wanted to leave a target for my Rock Lobbers. Because I've got 4, generally you can expect to hit something with them each turn. Usually at least one's going to hit something. So I wanted to leave them a target. And also it would help guarantee that this guy would suffer as well. And I think these trolls will be enough, hopefully, to kill them. So left one of them open so that they could be shot at, and obviously it worked because they're gone. The rock lobbers and other shooting from around here as well, I think, joined in, like the hand grenade. So that conspired to kill them off. So here's how it looks. It looks like my trolls didn't do too much damage there, but again, once you've got a hit in on Brotherhood units, they're relying so much on Thunderous Charge that when they hit you back, it's not going to hurt anywhere near as much. So as long as you're not leaving any flanks open or anything, just getting that hit in is really important. Turn 3 for the Brotherhood. So his boss, the flying dude O'Doom, backs away here because he wants these light cavalry to charge into the trolls, and these guys are going to be counter-charging those trolls. So the Bruiser is just left alone. Oh, what does the artillery hit? Oh, he puts 3 points of damage on the Rabble Horde. Wow. So that's really the lowest number of hits you can do with the artillery. He was rolling quite badly with that. And the Wizard is dead at the second attempt. He managed to finish him off this time. 6 damage onto these trolls. Not enough. Turn 4 for me. So look at that. Blurry tape measure action. So the War Trombone has moved up there. These trolls have gone into the Foot Knights, the ones that killed the Rabble earlier, after they'd killed off the Knights around here. So because it's invade, I'm now starting to move units that aren't doing anything towards my opponent's half. These two hordes are going to be hugely scoring if they can get there. So they're both heading that way. The Spitters were able to make it out of the difficult terrains. They will be able to move at the double next time and get really close to the line to get into the opposition half by the end. And over here, you can see that the light cavalry have been killed by the trolls, the flying cavalry have been killed by these trolls, and some of them will be able to make a push for the opposing half now, and it's looking very, very good for the goblins at the moment. What does the artillery hit this time? Oh, it hits another piece of his artillery. Wow. And killed it. Down here, the Troll Bruiser charged into him and put more damage on him. Couldn't remove him, though. His turn 4. So the Foot Knights, which have taken 4 damage, go back into the Trolls. They'll be hoping to kill them. This unit of Trolls have been doing quite well with their regen, I think. They've regened quite a few wounds so far. And his Standard Bearer is charging into the War Trombone. And Peasant Infantry into the flank of the Bruiser. So they do 5 damage to him. Not enough, though. There is enough to waver, but he is nimble, so he'll be able to get out the way and allow me to execute some charges. And over here, you see these trolls take a bit more damage, but not enough. But the War Trombone does get killed by the Standard Bearer. How embarrassing. Turn 5 for me. So the trolls countercharge and take out the Foot Knights. So it's all looking very, very bad for the Brotherhood. They don't really have too many scoring units left now. And these two units are almost into the opponent's half fully. The trolls are both heading that way as well. After they killed off this unit of peasant infantry here. And all my shooting finished off his leader there as well, because the Bruiser was wavered. So he's dead. And his turn 5, he charges into the Flaggit. And obviously doesn't do anything. So my turn 6. He's only got 2 units left. He's got an artillery piece up in this corner, and he's got a unit of infantry just chilling out behind that hill, hiding. So it's very, very one-sided. I've barely lost anything, and I'm clearly going to win the scenario. So in his turn 6, let's see. Okay, I think this is still the end of turn 5, this picture. So they move out in turn 6. So they're all in the opponent's half. The trolls are doing the same thing pretty much. And in his turn, they decide to come out and play. Because if they survive, they'll actually score him some bonus points for the tournament by being in my half. Which is what I was saying earlier about the scoring. The bonus points for following the scenario, even if you lose the scenario, mean that it's worth going for it in the last turn to sit on our objective or to get into a scoring zone, even if you're guaranteed to lose. So he thought he might as well go for it. And we do get a turn 7 though, which means I was able to totally toast that unit with a grenade and a couple of trombones to the face. What does this thing do? Nothing. So yep, I managed to kill everything apart from that piece of artillery, and he didn't kill that much at all. Let's see, I've got it written down here. I killed 1,920 points, so it's just that war machine left, and he killed 355 points. So what did he get? He got the Fleabag Sniffs, I think. He got not much else. A war trombone. All the trolls are still alive. I can't remember exactly what else he killed, but not too much at all. So a big win there. That is going to be 20 points for me, which is the maximum. And I think my opponent only picked up 1 point there for his kill amount. So a very one-sided game there, helped by the fact that my artillery dice rolls were better than his. And I got the edge early on by killing one of his artillery pieces. So I was up in the artillery battle. And they were doing quite well, the Rocklobbers, in this game. Also, my nerve rolls were doing quite well also. I was using the free, well, if you consider anything free when you've paid to enter a tournament, the dice that came as part of the tournament entry, I was using those for my nerve tests, and they were performing quite well. So that's going to put me towards the top of the table now. 2 wins in a row. 1, a gigantic mammoth win. 1, a reasonable win. So I'm still not at the top table, though. Game number 3. So this is the control scenario, where the board is divided up into 6 sections, and whoever's got the most unit strength in a section controls it. You get 1 victory point for each one you control, 2 if you control the central section in your opponent's half. So, unit strength, quite a big deal in this one. I've got a lot of unit strength, but not a lot of units that it's spread between, because it's mostly in horde form. So if things start dying, then I lose my unit strength very quickly, whereas some other army builds don't necessarily lose it that fast. I've got a lot of units that don't score at all, like war machines and individuals. It's about half my list is made up of units like that just can't score. So I'm up against the Horde. The Horde always look really scary when you look at the army list, because their stats on certain units look incredibly tasty. I'm talking the Stampede, for example. When they hit you, it's just... And everything pretty much has Pathfinder, so they're going to be ignoring difficult terrain. So, yeah, I think the Horde have Strider as well, so they would also ignore obstacles. So, you can see my line up here. The Fleabag Sniffs on this side, because I want them to get on that hill. And the rest of this flank is pretty open. I've got a lot more drops than my opponent here, so I was able to decide where I was going to put things at the end. I've got my Rocklobbers, because there's this big killing area here, but he's got all this juicy stuff I want to shoot at over in this corner. So I ended up putting Rocklobbers mostly over here, but they do have a chance to shoot over that way as well. But they do mainly want to be looking here, because that's where the juicy goodness is. That's where the really fast, powerful units are. I'm not overly concerned by what's on this side of the table at all. So let's have a look at all the deployment then. So Fleabag Sniffs, Trolls, a Rabble Horde, Troll Bruiser, Trolls. So that unit isn't inspired, but I don't think he has any shooting in his army at all. So I don't have to worry about that. He does have healing, though, which can be a big deal against my list. One of the Rocklobbers there. Of the 3 Rocklobbers behind these woods, which you may think is weird, but it does give them the opportunity to angle their shots out both ways. And then I've got the rest of my units around here. All 3 War Trombones were deployed last over here, because that's where he put his flyer. I think he's got 2 flying units, actually. So all the Trombones are down here to protect against that, as are the Wizard with his Lightning Bolt and the Diadem of Dragonkind. I just kept one of my characters over there, the Flaggit with the grenade, because opposite me there are some Guardian Brutes, which are quite high defense, and I just wanted some kind of inspiring down here that wasn't the Bruiser. Right, so here's the enemy list. So he's got a horde of Spirit Walkers in the woods there, 2 hordes of Guardian Brutes, and let's see, what else? I think he's got some heroes behind them that you can't actually see that have healing ability. I think they're concealed at the moment, though. I believe he has 2, though, that are healing behind there. So there's the Guardian Brute boss. He's got 2 beast packs. He's got one there and one at the back there, which are the Griffhounds. He's got the Stampede. That's a nice army, this. Then he's got some Eagles, which are these big flying fish things. Then he's got a King on a Griffin there. I think, is it King on a Griffin, or is that what it's called in the Varangur list? Some kind of Griffin-y thing, anyway. Or Chimera. Yeah, it might be Chimera, or something like that. You get the idea. It's a big flying monster. Turn 1. Okay. So I get first turn, so I move them up onto the hill, as planned. And they're not going to be threatened by anything over this side of the table, because if you look here, that's a big unwieldy horde that they'll be able to dance around shooting into, and these units aren't the fastest, and they won't want to be chasing Fleabag Sniffs around. So no speed over here means that I can just dance around, pinking off shots all game. He's got all his mobility and speed on this flank. So let's see. I've moved up most things fairly fast. I'm not too eager to get right up to him, but I don't want the fights to be taking place that close to my Rot Lobbers. So I want to advance a little bit. What do the Rot Lobbers do? These 2, they put damage onto the Guardian Brutes. I think they've gone up to 9 there. So that's a good start. And what do the other 2 Rot Lobbers do? Oh, what do you know? They hit as well. All 4 Rot Lobbers hit in turn 1, and these 2 delete the Stampede in turn 1. The most dangerous unit squished in the first turn. That is the dream scenario for me, the nightmare for my opponent, it has to be said. And yeah, you do feel slightly bad when all 4 Rot Lobbers hit in one turn, but only slightly bad. Okay, you can see the rest of the advance there. The Rabble going up faster than anyone else because they're not concerned about being charged at all. If he wants to charge them with his flyers, he can feel free. They won't be concerned by that. There is this piece of terrain here with a gap down the side that his, I think it is a Chimera, can get through. So that's why all the Trombones are heading off in that direction to counter that threat. And because this piece of terrain is height 4, I can also hide behind it to stop him getting charges over it as well. His turn 1. So there's the Chimera gone down here. The Eagles are using this for a bit of cover as well. The 2 beast packs there. And these are really fast, so I'm a bit concerned that they can charge some of my shooter units, because I'm pretty sure they're nimble as well, so I want them dead. And in the middle, the slower units are just trudging forward. Yeah, you can see the 2 healers at the back there. The healers get rid of most of the wounds on his Guardian Brutes, which is nice for him. And you can see how close they are in relation to my units. So, of course, the obvious move for me here is to, in my next turn, get my Sniffs and just charge them up there onto the chess clock and shoot down across the flank. And then if he turns to face them, the Trolls will be able to go after them. So this unit is just going to be really annoying for him. He has nothing over here that can deal with them. Turn 2. Oh, what do you know? Rot Lobbers hit again. And they delete something else. They delete the Giant Eagle unit. So 2 Rot Lobbers hit in turn 2. That's 6 out of 8 successful shots so far. And 2 of his most mobile, dangerous units dead. So Eagles also dead. And you can see that the Rabble charged the Beast Pack that were there as well and killed them, despite only doing 2 damage. So they rolled, I think, 9 on the nerve test to get rid of them. And then my Spitters shot down the other Beast Pack by doing 2 damage and rolling 9 on the nerve test to get rid of them as well. So that is all his fast maneuverable units on this flank dead. He's only got his Chimera over here now. And I did exactly what I said I was going to do. Move the Sniffs up here out of their charge arc. We checked to make sure that they weren't within the arc there. And fired into the flank. So if they really want to turn and face me, then they're going to be danced around even more, and they're going to get charged in the flank by something else. So they're going to have to ignore them, really. And I put my Flaggit with the Holy Hand Grenade right in the middle of the battlefield there, tempting him. If he wants to charge that, he's free to do so, because then I'll be able to charge with something else into them, because I've got a major unit numbers advantage now since I've killed off so many things, and he would have lobbed a grenade at something. He's far enough away so any overrun wouldn't bring them to within touching distance of any of my units as well. So it's kind of a trap, but I'm not sure what other options he has. It just depends what he attacks it with. Let's see. So turn 2 for him. The Chimera turns to face this way. He doesn't want to go down here because there are 3 War Trombones waiting for him that he can't charge because they all stayed out of his line of sight. So he just wants to look across my flank here and threaten. And he double charges 2 units of Guardian Brutes into the Flaggit. Yeah, he's going to die. He ignores the Sniffs, as he probably should, because they would just dance around him all game, and moves up here towards the Trolls, willing to eat a charge there. And of course the Flaggit dies. What did you think was going to happen? And he overruns a bit. So this guy is actually poking into the woods as well, this Guardian Brute leader. So that means I'm going to be able to get line of sight to him with certain things. And that could be bad for him, potentially. And this unit is actually bigger than that, but they wouldn't fit next to each other because they're so pointy, so the rest of the unit is just back there somewhere. Turn 3 for me. So, well, look at that. Diadem of Dragonkind, swoop round the back into the Chimera, put some damage on him. Nowhere near enough, but then I double 6 his nerve test to waver him. Wow. So this game is going very, very well. This flank has just totally been crushed. Over here, the Spitters, what do? They managed to waver this guy by putting 4 damage on him, so that must have been a good roll as well. And here you can see the charges that I went for. The Troll Bruiser went into this unit, which is actually twice as big, as I said. And the Rabble and this Troll unit double charged into these Guardian Brutes, putting them up to 9. He's still got healing ability behind, though. And the Trolls here charged into the front of the Spirit Walkers, that they were invited to do so. And the Fleabag Sniffs went into the flank. Now, he was surprised at how effective the Fleabag Sniffs were at fighting. They're actually just as good in combat as they are at shooting, except in the flank, obviously, they're doubling the number of attacks. So people often underestimate them. If you ignore them and give them a flank, they are a potent fighting force. Up here, the Rabble have just totally ignored that guy. And they're just going for that corner of the table because this is the control scenario after all. So I want to make sure that if I fail to table this army, then I will get maximum points for the scenario. Opponent turn 3, countercharges. So he countercharges into the Trolls and the Troll Bruiser. This guy can't do anything because he's wavered. And you can see that there's been some healing dished out here from these 2 characters as well. So he's got them right back up. There's a lot of heal between those 2 characters. Very, very good to have that against an army like mine. Manages to waver the Bruiser. But again, if you waver the Bruiser, it's not too big of a deal. It's not going to cause a traffic jam because he is nimble and he'll be able to get out of the way. Now, he only does 3 damage to the Trolls, though. So that's disappointing for him. Turn 4 for me. So, the flank of one of the units was left open. Let's see which one it was. I believe it was this unit here, which meant that this unit of Rabble actually had a flank charge on them, and the unit of Trolls over here were able to get in the flank as well. So, double charge, eat them. The other unit has taken some damage from the charge here. You can see the Bruiser got out of the way. And this unit of Trolls on this side went in and cleaned up the Guardian Brute boss. So he's dead. Yep, confirmation of that there. You can see how this flank is totally empty. No enemy models there at all. But I don't have anything to actually claim it with in terms of the scenario because they're all war machines and individuals. The Sniffs fire off some shots and waver one of the healers, which is going to prevent more healing next time. Turn 4. So he countercharges and manages to kill off one of the units of Trolls. So there's some points on the board for him there. My turn 5. That was a very quick turn because he's got barely anything left. The Sniffs and the Wiz waver that one, that healer. And the final unit of Guardian Brutes have been, I think it was double, if not triple, charged and killed. And you can see I'm just spreading my units out to get into all the tabled sections just in case I don't kill everything, and so I can pick up those maximum points, because the maximum you can pick up is 5. So I would get 2 for controlling the central one on the opponent's half, and then I would need to have 3 more to get maximum bonus points. So he's only got those 2 individuals left, and I've got almost everything left. Oh, you can see a bit of beard encroaching down onto the table here. Opponent's turn 5, and not much is done. They just move around a bit because they don't have any shooting attacks. Turn 6, so double charge into that one, kill it, and Sniffs and a Lobber on a 6 managed to hit that one and kill it. So that is the enemy completely wiped out. I'm in enough table quarters to get maximum points as well. So that is the end of that. So that is another gigantic win. I killed all 2,000 points. My opponent killed 285 points. So it was really just the trolls and 1 character I think he killed. I think it was just the trolls and the Flaggit that I parked in a suicidal position. Those are the only 2 things he managed to kill. So very good game for me there. The Lobber's performing superbly. 6 hits out of the first 8 shots, destroying 2 of his most important units. And then with the amount of units I had, I was always going to be able to dance around and outmaneuver the Guardian Brutes with everything I had. So it was an uphill struggle for him because of the artillery's laser pinpoint accuracy. So that's another 20 points for me, and I think 1 again for the opponent. So 3 wins in a row, 2 mammoth wins. I'm thinking, going into round 4, I could be on table 1 now. But wouldn't you know it, I'm actually on table 2. So 2 people must have been doing even better, because this was a 26-man tournament, or 26-player tournament. Then it's possible for several players to win all their games and not play each other at all. So generally, if you have that many players, you need more than 4 games to get the potential top players to play against each other, generally. The less games you have, the more chance of multiple people being able to win all their games without facing each other. So, round 4. I think I'm in 3rd place, though, at this stage. By a reasonable distance, I think. So, it might be good, though, because avoiding table 1, those 2 players could be the best players there on the day. They could just have a total stalemate and not pick up any points at all, and I could win this game and jump ahead of them. However, then I see what I'm facing. Now, the scenario is push, which means you're carrying tokens into the opponent's half. So there's 1 in the middle and 2 each to carry. You get 1 point at the end of the game for holding a token. You get 2 if it's in the opponent's half. Now, I'm facing Night Stalkers. You'll know so far that my army is quite reliant on 5+ shooting. I've got all 4 Lobbers that hit on 5s, and my Spitter Horde as well, and the Fleabag Sniffs hit on 5s. What don't I want to see opposite me? An army where every single unit has stealth. Wow. So -1 to hit on absolutely everything on the opponent's army. That means with those units I just mentioned, I'm now getting, on average, half as many hits while paying the same amount of points. So obviously at a tournament, you can run into the army that is tailor-made to take out exactly what you've got. And I think this is precisely what I've run into here. So this is going to be a very difficult one. Also, interesting thing about Night Stalkers, if you've not faced them, they don't inspire themselves. They leech off the opponent's inspiring. And we weren't 100% sure whether that would include the Troll Bruiser, because his rule is inspiring trolls only rather than inspiring. So we assumed that it wouldn't affect them. So that means I was only going to be inspiring him with my 2 Flaggits. So there wasn't a lot of opportunities for him to become inspired. So that could help me. But because my army is so reliant on shooting, and also another factor, look at the amount of difficult terrain on this table. There's a piece there. There's a forest, there's a piece there, and there's a forest. So there are so many places he can sit and have stealthy and cover. So my breath attacks are going to be limited severely if he gets into any of those places. And it's not a good sign at all. There's a couple of hills, but he does have some height 3 units, though, so I will have targets. But my war machines are going to be hitting on 6s constantly throughout the game, which is a bit of a nightmare. The one kind of army I really did not want to face. And as soon as I saw his list, I thought I would need a big win if I was going to win this tournament. And if I do win this game, it's not going to be a big win, because I'm not going to be able to wipe out his army. Even if I win, it's going to be close, because I'm not going to be able to just steamroll in with artillery like I have in the previous 2 games, because of that stealthy. So here's my setup on the right flank. I've got a lot of trolls. I've got some artillery, because he's got a height 3 unit on the other side of the hill that will be a target for them. Then I've got my spitters there as well. In the middle, I've put my tokens on rabble units, because it's not going to slow them down to have the tokens, because they're already speed 5. And I've got my war trombones over here, and also all my other annoying shooty attacks here as well. I've got both my Flaggits and my wizard and my Sniffs. You'll see why I've put it all down here in a minute. 1 unit of trolls there. There are the tokens. So this is his right flank, the left flank as I look at it. So these are phantoms, I think. So they're a bit like wraiths. So they fly. He's got this, I think this is a Dread Fiend that possibly flies. He's got a Mind Screecher, which has a ridiculous shooting attack. I don't think I've seen it before, where it's 18-inch range. It's about 8 attacks, I think, hitting on 4s, and it's piercing 3. So that's pretty tasty. That's like something that you would want to take out trolls. Anything defense 5 hates to see piercing 3. So, of course, remember, all this stuff is stealthy as well, so it's going to be difficult to shoot it. Then he's got some of these guys. They are large cavalry, I think. He's got another Dread Fiend, I think, there. Another Mind Screecher. This unit have a similar kind of shooting attack to him, but it's not quite as good. He's got a Legion of Scarecrows, which are quite similar to zombies. Then he's got a couple of these infantry units here are actually pretty good, I think. I can't remember what they're called. It's another one of those armies, no official models. Everyone's army looks different. So there's the same kind of the large cavalry that were on the other flank, and another Dread Fiend. So not feeling at all confident, but I think I can get something out of this game, because I'm not going to be giving him too much inspiring. So that may get me some, if I can get some luck. So a few lucky rolls, and I could take this. Turn 1. So I move up, staying out of charge range of everything. Move up the trolls at least. If he's going to be fighting me, I don't want it to be too close to the war machines again. Oh, the spitters fire, and they do 1 damage to that unit. They're hitting on 6s, obviously, because everything's stealthy. He doesn't have any healing, though. So that actually filled me with a little bit more confidence, because if I can slowly chip away at all these units, then maybe I can accomplish something here, because he's not going to be getting wounds back. Apart from, let me just show you, I think these 3 units here have life leech. So those 3 would be able to get wounds back, so I'm not going to be targeting them too much. Both his tokens are on that unit, by the way, so I want to kill them in combat and pick up the tokens off them, which is why I've got lots of trolls over here. Okay, Fleabag Sniffs go up onto the hill, put 2 damage onto this unit here, which is quite a good round, but they're probably going to get gunned down now for showing themselves on the hill. But because there's no heal, I'm just confident chipping away slowly. We'll see what happens. The Lightning Bolt Wizard puts 2 damage onto this Dread Fiend. Rock Lobbers, and a picture of the floor, which shows that they missed. So they all missed in turn 1, as you'd expect, while hitting on 6s. Opponent turn 1, you can see that the Flyers have moved up to threaten down here. And in the center, everything's moving forward. I think I've stayed out of their potential firing range, these units, to give them 1 less turn of shooting, because they've got an 18-inch range. And he moves everything else up in a quite orderly fashion, staying out of troll charge range, and within his own charge range of 2 of these units, though. So I'm going to have to either move or just sit there and get charged. The Mind Screech kills the Fleabag Sniffs. Wow, wow, wow. Turn 2. So I've moved these trolls sideways a bit, just so they don't get locked up forever behind the spitters. More damage onto that unit there, but again, not a lot. Slowly chipping away. Lightning Bolt puts a bit more on him again. And the Flaggit hiding behind the hill from the height 2 Mind Screech shooty attacks. And I positioned everything so that he's not able to charge any of my trombones. If he wants to charge anyone, it's going to be this Rabble, and then he's going to get tromboned in the face. Turn 2 of my opponent. So he's moved up into cover here, so if I want to torch him with anything, it's going to be -2 to hit, because he's in cover and stealthy. So the trombone's going to have a tough time doing anything there. Down here, this unit charges into the Bruiser, and this guy charges into the Spitters to stop them shooting. And in the middle, the Scarecrows are moving in. Not too much movement in this area because they've got decent ranged attacks. And what do? They waver the unit of Trolls in the middle. Wow, wow. And down here, 2 damage onto the Bruiser, 4 onto the Spitters, so not overly concerned about that. Turn 3. So I charge the Spitters back into him. This picture, I think, was taken at the end of the turn after he'd already moved someone else into combat, which is why I zoomed in so far. You'll see that occasionally with the images. If I've zoomed in and the framing looks a bit off, like there's a big, huge piece of blank table, it's because I want to keep something out of the shot that isn't meant to be there yet. So they went back into him, did a tiny bit of damage. The Trolls obviously kill off that unit of large cavalry in combat. It's only a small one. Then this guy with his Holy Hand Grenade. This is the perfect weapon to use against Night Stalkers because it always hits on a 4 regardless. So it lands on that guy, it ignores stealthy, does some damage to him. So if he can't kill him, that could be quite a big deal. Rock Lobbers. Oh, they actually get a hit on a 6, land on the cavalry over here, and get them up to 10. But I can't remove them. Lightning Bolt puts more on him. I think I do waver that cavalry unit, though. So I've positioned everything around here because I want to trombone his units, and I get them up to 4. So not much at all, as you'd expect, due to the difficulty of shooting. Opponent turn 3. So this unit have gone into the Trolls. I can't remember what these guys are called, but they have a lot of attacks, so they're quite elite. And the Scarecrows and the Dreadfiend have gone into the Spitters, hoping to kill them off. And I had to leave the flank of the Rabble open to somebody because he had a lot of fast units around, so I decided to leave it open to them, knowing that if they charge in there, they're leaving themselves out in the open. And Dreadfiend into the front as well. So you can see they were wavered, represented by a little base under the dice. Mind Screech, what does it do now? And the other one, yes, that unit of Trolls is just screeched to death. That shooting attack they have is the ultimate troll killer, I think, if you have multiples of them. The Dreadfiend manages to kill off something. What did it kill? Was that a War Trombone? Oh no, it was the Rabble, and stole the Rabble's token there. He only did 4 damage to them, but rolled enough even with the Inspiring there, so that was a good roll to kill them. He does lots of damage to the Rabble Horde, but doesn't kill it. The Trolls survive the attack from this unit here, but the Spitters are dead from that double attack. You can see they took 13 damage there by the looks of it. So it was a slightly above average roll to kill them. Turn 4. So you can't see here because this was after the fact, but let me show you what I did here. It was something he didn't spot. So after these combats, the flank of this unit here is open to either the Bruiser or them. But the flank of this Dreadfiend here is also open to the Bruiser. So the Bruiser charged the flank of the Dreadfiend, the Trolls charged the flank of this unit here. So double flankage for the win. So they kill them. These Trolls went into the front of the Dreadfiend as well. So those units are dead, so I'm getting the advantage on this flank. When it comes into combat with Trolls, you'd expect them to be the best performing units, along with maybe the hand grenade. Things that aren't affected by stealthy, basically. Over here, it's not looking too unhealthy, because I managed to toast the Phantoms that were there with shooting attacks, because they were out in the open, so they didn't have cover anymore. This one, though, still has cover and stealthy, so I'm not able to kill him with my shooting attacks. The Rabble aren't able to do much to the Dreadfiend. I tried to throw another grenade at him, but I think it missed. And there's how the battlefield looks. It's looking really, really close at the moment. In terms of the scenario, he's got the edge because he's holding more tokens than me, but I think I'm quite confident I can kill off this unit and steal its tokens and then march them into the enemy half with all these trolls I've got here. So it's very, very tight so far. I'm doing better than I expected, considering my shooting is severely hampered by the enemy army. So, turn 4. My trolls get double charged by those 2 units, which was only just possible, which I didn't realise that I had left it open, I think. But obviously I had. So I think the main reason he did that is to get this unit out of charge arc of some of my units. So it was a good move, really, because this is the one carrying the tokens, and I would need to multi-charge them to kill them. So possibly I could have avoided that with positioning. Possibly. Mind Screech, 5 damage to the War Trombone. Mind Screech, 1 damage to the War Trombone. And they do a damage to the Flaggit. Flaggit gets wavered on 1 damage. War Trombone gets wavered on 1 damage. And that other War Trombone is dead. Oh no, that was the Rabble Horde, actually. And I think their token has been stolen by somebody now as well. And those trolls that were double charged are dead. Turn 5. So I'm moving all my shooting around into position to try and toast that guy who's carrying a token. There's another one just in the open there, but does my whiz do something? Nope. Okay, the trolls on the Bruiser double charge that elite infantry regiment and kill them. So they're just looking down at this scarecrow unit now. I didn't really have any option to do any pivoting here, because if I'd turned sideways, he could have charged the flank of the trolls, and because they were touching, because they had to share the frontage equally, then they weren't able to pivot to face further down in this direction. Turn 5 for my opponents. Now, I moved my war machines because they didn't have a target, so I sent them this way because there were going to be enemy units going for tokens over on the other side of the table within their sight if they're facing in this direction. So he was able to charge one of them, which I knew he was going to be able to do. And this Dreadfiend attacks a War Trombone, just trying to munch things up. Mind Screech, Mind Screech. Kill one of the Rock Lobbers. It looks like they only did 1 damage and still killed it, though. So he's had some pretty good nerve rolls in this game. The Flaggit becomes wavered again. And they obviously eat that War Machine. And then they pivot a bit, which puts them out of the charge arc of the Troll Bruiser, but not the Trolls. And they're on 10 damage. So it can be done. Then there's Dreadfiend with that token kills the Trombone, of course. But he is on... He does take some damage. I think. Let's see, is that the same one? Yeah, this must be my turn. So he takes some damage. And that guy takes some damage as well from my shooting, because I need to kill all these things, because they're big, they've got a lot of nerve, and they can pick up tokens, which is something I'm lacking in my army at the moment. So our trolls do get in there. The Bruiser is just looking at them. The trolls managed to get them up to 19, but can't remove them. I needed 8 to kill them, but I think we'd already used our rerolls by this point. Turn 6. So the Screech kills off another Rock Lobber, I think. That unit kills off the Flaggit. The Scarecrows go after the Trolls, but can't kill them. They drop one of the tokens behind them, or under the base there. So I would need to kill them and overrun onto it to pick it up. So that's the thinking behind that. We do get turn 7. So in turn 7, I managed to kill the Scarecrows with the Bruiser and the Trolls and pick up 2 tokens, but I'm going to be stuck in my half with them. I did manage to overrun onto them, and as I was going for the button to end my turn, my time was ticking down to 0. So I used up exactly the time that I had. You could call that efficiency, or you could call that luck in the end. But it was very, very long turns for me because units didn't die early on. So there was a lot of maneuvering going on. And I was able to put loads of damage with shooting, well, a reasonable amount. I mean, this one's up to 12, look at that. So he was carrying a token in my half, which is worth points. So I think he should have died, but I rolled terribly for his nerve. This one took more damage than that. I don't think we marked up his nerve. But he wasn't as close to death, but this one definitely should have died, I think. It wouldn't have saved me the game at this stage, because he's already got 3 tokens in my half, I think, with his big monsters that I just wasn't able to get through. So at the end of the game, I've got 2 tokens in my own half, giving me 2 points. And he's got those 3 things, all carrying a token in my half, which gives him 6. So for the bonus points, he would have picked up 5. So it was extremely close on the kills, though, because, let me see here. They're still alive, they're still alive. Oh, we don't look at the final standings yet. Okay, so I killed 1,320, he killed 1,480. So that actually went way better than I was expecting when I saw his army list. But one weakness my army list does have, it doesn't have that many units like this that can pick up tokens or score points at the end of a game. I just couldn't kill them with the shooting being so hindered. Hitting on 6s with the war machines meant that I only got about 2 hits with the rock lobbers all the way through the game, and I just couldn't quite take any of this stuff down. If I killed 2 of them, which was definitely within the realms of possibility, then it would have been a draw, because it would have been 2 points each. He would have had 1 in my half worth 2. I would have had 2 in my own half worth 2. So could have happened, and I think had I got a draw out of this game, that would have been a very, very pleasing result against the army I came up against. It was like the one tailor-made army to take out gun lines like mine, especially those that hit on 5s, because, of course, you're halving the amount of successful shots that you're going to get when you're shooting at stealthy units. And then with some of my stuff as well, for example, war trombones, anything that hits on 4 with breath attack is going to be reduced even further because he was spending a lot of time in the cover due to the large amount of difficult terrain at this tournament as well. So I think the way the 2 lists were stacked up, I think I did all right in the end here to get a few points. I got 5 points in total. I got 2 bonus for the scenario and 3 for kills. So let's have a look where that puts me in the final standings. I took a picture of the screen. There we go. So I have finished 3rd, which means the player that defeated me in the final game finished 2nd, just above me. And I finished 3rd on kill points as well, 6,325. You can see someone all the way down in 8th got more kill points than me. But other than that, the only other player to get more kill points than me was the winner. So that is a pretty damn tasty result, I would say. 3rd place, winning 3 games, 2 massive wins, and only losing against an army that it was going to be very, very difficult for me to beat, I think. I think the last game was really, really good and close, though. We both made some good moves, and it could have ended in a draw, which would have been very, very nice for me, but alas, it did not. Even if I'd won the last game 20-0, though, then I would have only finished 2nd still. So it's not that disappointing knowing that, because obviously the player who finished 1st won all his games. The total VPs are actually higher than they were totals. I think everyone got a bonus of 15 points for having a fully painted army or something like that, because obviously in 4 games when you can only get 20, you can't possibly get up to 93. So I think there is a bonus attached to that. So 3rd place, and what does that mean? Bum, bum, bum. It means my first ever trophy, which is quite an achievement considering I've only been to many Kings of War tournaments and finally get a trophy. The one tournament that I placed high in previously, I finished 2nd at a tournament a year or so ago, but there weren't trophies at that tournament. And it was only a small one anyway. I think it was only 12 or 14 players. So this was 26 players. So finishing 3rd is quite a good achievement there. And I put it against an orange backdrop, but I thought, that's not enough. Let's put it in my cabinet. So my miniatures display cabinet can now become a trophy cabinet because it's got 1 trophy in it. And maybe there'll be more. Maybe I should put up my relics certificates in there as well to show that I actually won a tournament for a different game system at some point. Who knows? But there is a trophy in there now, so it can officially be called a trophy cabinet. And I always said that having your first trophy, it's kind of embarrassing if it's not a first place, having your first trophy, but it does actually feel good to win it. And it feels better than I thought it would just to have any kind of physical prize like that. There you go, another picture of it there. So that's sitting nicely in there, and hopefully I can upgrade to a first place at some point. Because I think this army list, as I was saying with the last tournament, I've tweaked it since then, but I think this overall idea of a list definitely has tournament winning potential. And I'm not sure if I even need to make tweaks to it. It depends if I think I'm going to come up against 100% Night Stalker armies again, where everything is stealthy, or 100% Rordian lists, where everything is stealthy, for example. So, not everything in the Rordian list is stealthy. So, you rarely see a Rordian army where stealth would be that much of an issue for me. So, I don't think I need to tweak too much. I think I need to avoid Night Stalkers. I need to keep rolling well with my artillery and nerve tests, which I was doing quite handily at this tournament. And yeah, that's that. Any comments? Let's see. Dave Doge talking about Age of Sigmar again. Yes, I will be doing some coverage of the new edition, don't worry. Lawrence Jameson is in here, congratulating me on this fine achievement of taking 3rd place in a tournament. I think that'll be worth quite a lot of ranking points, actually. 26 people in a tournament, finishing 3rd, that's going to be worth a lot. The way that they weight the points awarded in the rankings for tournaments is based on how many games there were and how many players there are, I think, and the point level of the tournaments. This is going to be quite a good one. So let's whiz back through the images, shall we? While I wait to see if any more comments come in from the live viewers. We've had over 10 for pretty much the entire live broadcast, I think. Most people will be watching this later, I imagine, though, since it's a bit of an unusual time for a live broadcast. And it doesn't matter how it's supposed to be pronounced, Mr. Doge. That's how I pronounce it. Here we go, whizzing through. It was nice to be able to get to play on a snow mat at the end as well. Only once, though. There were 4 or 5 snow mats in that. I only played on 1 snow table, though. And this was table 2 at the end of the tournament. The table numbers were moved right around. It was like a mini game in itself, finding your table at the beginning of the round. Overall, the tournament seemed to run very smoothly. It didn't run over time particularly. And I liked the scoring system. I liked the extra weight given to the scenario in bonus points, because it gives you something to play for. Like I was saying, even if you're winning big or losing big, you've still got a way to get bonus points that actually count towards the tournament rather than just being used as a tiebreaker. So I like that a lot. I've always said that the scenario should be the most important thing and that you should score really heavily for winning a scenario. Because if you think about it, if you think back to historical battles, often the greatest victories, there were terrible losses incurred during them, but it was because they were able to hold some strategic location that ended up winning them a war in some cases. So I like the fact that scenarios are weighed more heavily than just killing things. So it's a scoring system I hope more people will try. Maybe some people will tweak it and come up with something even better. We shall see, though. And I think we're on game 2 here. Whizzing through. So 2 games against Brotherhood, 1 game against the Herd, 1 game against Night Stalkers. Armies that you don't face that often. I didn't face any of the more common armies. No other goblins. What else? There was a few elves at this one. You see quite a lot of those nowadays. No undead. I'm not sure there were any undead at this tournament, actually. I don't remember seeing any. There were definitely some Empire of Dust, but you don't see a lot of those. There were some ogres there, but I didn't face them. There were some Abyssal Dwarves as well. I wouldn't have minded facing some Abyssal Dwarves, actually. I think they look cool. And it would have been an interesting artillery showdown because their artillery is pretty mean as well. I think it's safe to say the Goblins didn't need a 4th option for a war machine, for a rock lobber. Having one as a living legend, giving you the ability to take 4 in a list. I think it is slightly overkill, but it's in the game, so why not take it? And this list still hasn't won me a tournament. Maybe it will one day. I haven't decided whether I'm going to continue running this at the next tournament or whether I'll switch things up and then go back to it later. It's either going to be this list again, just keep throwing it against the wall until it sticks and gets me a win, or try something different next time. Maybe ogres with my Stormcast Eternal Ogre army. I've only played them once before, and that was before ogres got a significant boost with the improvements made to chariots in the Clash of Kings book. And also I've got some another unit to use as Shooter Horde now as well since then. So I can field a more competitive ogre army. So maybe I'll give that a go at the next tournament. We shall see. I haven't been having as much fun with undead lately, but I'm also building up that undead Rordia army, which I'm going to use mainly as Rordia, I think, when it's finished. At the moment, I don't think I'm at 1,000 points yet, so I need to get a bit more, obviously. I'm waiting for something that I'm using as an Iron Beast or a Battle Shrine to arrive, and I'm also waiting for a Winged Duke to arrive as well. So you can look forward to seeing what I'm going to do with those units, how I'm going to get them on the table. Of course, there are no official Rordian models from Mantic. And Mantic could make a killing if they put out a plastic halfling army, I'm pretty sure. And even if they had wanted to go through Kickstarter with it, I think people would back that. So, any other comments before we wrap this one up? Because it is about that time. Gone through every game. A very enjoyable tournament. All 4 of my opponents were very friendly, actually. It was a very good atmosphere overall. I think every single player got at least 1 vote in the favourite game category. You voted for your 2 favourite games for the best sportsmanship trophy, and apparently every player got at least 1 vote. So that was nice. It seemed to be a very good atmosphere in there. All my games were very good. The last game, even though it was the only game I lost, was probably the best game purely from a neutral standpoint, just because it was so close, and it was a very difficult game, but it wasn't one-sided. Games 2 and 3, it was enjoyable for me, but I'm sure my opponents' enjoyment was slightly hindered by the fact that they got wiped out by war machines, which people tend not to enjoy that much. But it's part of the game, and while it's in there, people are going to continue to take war machines. And obviously I didn't win the tournament, so it's not a totally killer list. I came up against something that was just well equipped to deal with it. It's like that rock, paper, scissors scenario. If you bring an army that's all rock, there may well be someone out there at the tournament that's brought all paper, and they're going to just wrap you up and send you packing. Okay, I think that's a pretty tasty analogy to end on. So, folks, in terms of what's coming up, well, there is, I think I'm going to go to the UK Games Expo in a few weeks. I'll probably only be there on the Saturday, if anyone's going to be there. And let's see, there's a Dead Zone tournament coming up at the start of July, I think. So I'll be reporting on that as well. I'm not sure when the next Kings of War tournament is. I'll have to look into that. But there are definitely quite a lot of Kings of War tournaments. So there's probably one coming up within the next few weeks, hopefully. Hopefully it won't be 3 months or so. Like I think the last one that I went to was about 3 months ago. During the football season, obviously, due to attending matches, then I tend to miss a few tournaments. But it's the summer now, so World Cup, meaning that if there's a game on that I really want to watch, I can just record it on TV. So that shouldn't cause me to miss any tournaments for the next few months. That'll be nice. And, of course, there was all the big announcements from GW the other day from Warhammer Fest. So there's going to be some coverage on that. There's going to be an Andy and Rem show sometime this week on all the new Age of Sigmar stuff with the new edition and whatnot. So I'm sure it'll be exciting. And I think that's enough chatting. So I'm going to say ta-ta to everyone. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description, the various social media stuff. Don't forget to join the Andy 2D6 Orange Wargaming Facebook group if you want to see what I'm up to, or let me know what you're up to if it's relevant in some way to what I've been doing with my video content. And I will say good afternoon and goodbye.